Why is gym class and students with IEPs such a hot topic all the time? I mean, it's always coming up as a problem of what to do about PE and students with IEPs. In fact, I'll tell you what was exactly in my inbox today. It says, if the school doesn't provide gym classes as they don't have a gym, would it make sense to ask for adaptive sports lessons? That's just one of the problems that I see happen when it comes to PE and IEPs. I also hear things like my child is learning all of their PE activities in a small group in the corner of the gym while all the other students are doing their activities. I also hear that gym is often used for inclusion, and if the child cannot make it through the entire gym class, inclusion just simply doesn't work. Now, I'm not really sure what does inclusion in gym have to do with like inclusion in reading class, but this happens all of the time. So I want you to really think about if you need to adapt the situation when it comes to PE and your student or your child because they need some accommodations, modifications, or a completely different area in the school to learn these physical skills. Now, for this parent who just sent me this and said, hey, what do I do? The school doesn't have a gym. I'm going to say, go look at your state policy and see what is mandated when it comes to PE class and your school district. Your child with an IEP should have equal access to the activity as their same age peers. So if your school doesn't have a gym, what are the other students doing? And then what do we need to do to adapt that or include your child into those activities? That's really no different than what I recommend when it comes to a school that does have a gym. But one of the first things I look at is that is a child set up for success in that gym class? Now, let's just think about this for a minute. You have a gym teacher who sees every child in the school. Do you think they know your child or your student's IEP? No. Do you think that they're going to modify every direction, provide every visual, do all the things for every child? Is that going to happen? Is the gym teacher going to do that? No. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying this is a fact. You guys know I'm a special needs sibling. I grew up coaching Special Olympics. I love working with sports and all different ability levels. I'm a special education teacher by trade. For the last 20 years, I've been working for you, parents, teachers, admins, and therapists. And this is always a struggle to figure out if a child should be included in the regular PE class because it would be awesome. And because we can adapt everything and this child would be successful and they would love it. It would showcase some of their strengths. It would help them build skills. It would be a great place for socialization and being part of the school community. That's usually the thought process between using, gym for inclusion opportunities versus thinking about how it might not be the right place because of those things that I just mentioned, that the gym teacher really has a hard time taking ownership of the students who have special needs or IEPs and including them. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get mad and say like, oh my gosh, she doesn't want any of our students with IEPs in a gym class. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we got to get smart about how to make this happen. This isn't just plopping a child into a gym class with a teacher's assistant, an aide, or a paraprofessional and crossing our fingers that it all works out. We have to make this an intentional opportunity for inclusion and building this as an opportunity for school community activity of having a child who has an IEP into the gym class. It is not an easy thing. And that's really what I'm trying to get to here is everybody thinks like, well, child needs to try inclusion. Let's just try gym. Let's try the most chaotic, noisy, high energy, large classroom activity that we can do, and let's see if it works. Majority of the time, it does not work the way that it is intended to work. So I want to include everybody here in this strategy of seeing, okay, what is the state requiring for PE for your district, okay? And then what is the right solution for your individual child or student? So let me just put out there, I hated gym class. I hated it. If I had needs that I needed an IEP, and I could have had a separate gym activity or physical activity, quite honestly, I personally, my personality, I would have preferred that. A way that would not have been the right place to include me, because that, and here's the thing, this always gets touchy. Like, I feel like I have to be like, and I'm not saying don't include a child. I'm not saying exclude. I'm saying inclusion as in it's easy. Like, here, we just include the child in kickball. We just include the child in volleyball. We just include the child in running a mile. It's harder than that, because PE for some students without IEPs is difficult. Okay? Just stop thinking that it's easy. Sometimes, having an alternative is not just okay, but it's the right thing to do. I'm not saying purposely a child has an IEP so they can't go to gym. I'm saying if a child has an IEP, that IEP applies in gym class. Okay? It applies there. What are we going to do to be intentional to make sure that all the needs are met in PE? And if we need to consider something alternative, that's not always such a bad thing. Hey, Wanda, how are you? Wanda is a master IEP coach. I do want to, Elizabeth is here. She is a master IEP coach. Gail is here. She is a master IEP coach. So just so everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say master IEP coach, the master IEP coach mentorship is where I help you really take in everything, all IEPs, when it comes to leadership and great IEP meetings and leveling up the IEP and getting all the paperwork kind of lined up the way that it needs to be to prepare a child for further education, employment, independent living. I teach you to be the expert in your community. So not only do you learn everything for yourself, but you learn how to do what I do. You learn how to be that expert in your community and take this next level. So maybe you want to be the teacher who becomes the expert in your school. Maybe you're the teacher who becomes the expert in your school and wants to become a speaker. Maybe you're a parent and you've been thinking about taking a parent advocacy training. This is a great alternative to a traditional parent advocacy training, is to come be a master IEP coach. Let's see, we've got Elizabeth. Let's go through some of this here. Elizabeth, gym is not always the right spot. We are choosing art, language arts, and music as they are areas my child excels. Yes, gym is not right for her. Yes. So we're not excluding. We're not saying, like, in a way of we're saying like she can't do that. It's not right for her. And that's okay. We all have different personalities. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. And attempting to do something new in an area of our weakness is super hard. And then you put that in a large, chaotic, room with a bunch of, volleyballs flying around. That is tough. Let's see. We have Bobby who says, tomorrow morning, my child has an IEP and her gym teacher will be there. That's what her special education teacher said. A lot of times the gym teacher is there because a lot of times that's where a child's being included. Let's make sure, does that gym teacher, if it's the general education gym teacher, does that gym teacher know your child? Does that gym teacher know what visuals or cues or supports needs to be put in place? If your child has a behavior plan, does the gym teacher know that? Okay. Make sure, Bobby, make sure that you're communicating directly with that gym teacher to understand the relationship that gym teacher has with your child. And if that relationship is not there, if they're not aware of those things, that's a great opportunity to make sure that your child is being included fully for who they are and for what they need to be included in there. Okay, Gail says, what kind of strategies do you recommend for a child like mine who gets overwhelmed and upset when losing a game, frustrated with the rules of a game at gym class, but craves the activities in sports, sometimes no extra aids or support staff? So, Gail, this is something that needs to be addressed outside of that situation. So I would possibly be getting the social worker or depending, sometimes it's a speech therapist too. They can help with pragmatics and understanding in social situations. So there can absolutely be some video modeling that's done. So maybe your son needs to see a visual of like a team losing and how they have good sportsmanship. All right, maybe some social stories, maybe some scenarios. Maybe we make sure that he has this little talk with the social worker, within 24 hours before he goes to gym class. But it's about pre-teaching, not teaching in the moment, because when the emotions are going, it's very hard to teach in that moment. So you definitely have to have that pre-teaching step in this type of situation. Alex says, I have a question. My nephew is on the spectrum. He's going to be starting junior high next year. We all have concerns about him changing in the locker room because he talks to himself and doesn't pay attention and doesn't focus on what he's doing and often gets his clothes on backwards. Can he be taken out of PE? So the issue, what I'm hearing, is not PE itself. It's the locker room. A lot of times there are alternatives that are set up for the locker room for a variety of different reasons. So let's see if there's an alternative to the locker room for your nephew to change. Sometimes I've seen an accommodation as, or I should say modification in that way, where it's been as simple as the child leaves the class before gym. They leave that early. They go into the locker room and they change before the people get in there. And then it's okay. Maybe the child's going to help, a lot of times this person, he loved to help. Okay. So he would be the one, let's say, putting away the basketballs with other peers also. So he wasn't the only one just cleaning up the gym, but putting things away. So this way it was less chaotic in the locker room because he was going in there last or almost last to go change at the end. I've seen it where students have used a separate bathroom stall. That was in an appropriate place. I've seen them use the nurse's office. I've seen them use the gym teacher's office to change. I've seen, depending on if it would bother the student or not, I've seen no changing of clothes at all for gym class. Most of the time as we get to junior high and high school, though, we're going to want them changing clothes if they're going to be in the gym class. Can he be taken out of PE? Possibly, but I wouldn't necessarily go that route first unless there's other things that would be needed to be addressed, and that wouldn't be appropriate. So let's just say that the gym class, like I said, so overwhelming that child has meltdown during gym class and then literally can't function for the rest of the day because their nervous system is on overload and they're not able to recoup and get back on track on that way. Okay, so PE class, that is a big deal. All right, so let's make sure that we're not just using it as a dumping ground and trial for inclusion, that we're being smart about it, that we're not using it as the first go-to place to see if inclusion will work, that we're not absolutely excluding a child because of their IEP, but that we're not mandating it in the same way as their peers just because we think it's probably a good idea without thinking it all the way through. Again, I want to encourage you, our final Master IEP Coach Mentorship of 2021 will be happening in June. You need to hop over to masteriepcoach.com. There will not be another one this year. The next one will not be until 2022. So that's because we got a lot of work to do this fall. So I'm doing one last session this year in the spring or in the summer. And then I'm going to be all in with Master IEP coaches through this back to school season because we got a lot of work to do, right, guys? We got a lot going on in special education. So if you've been thinking about becoming a Master IEP coach, or you're like, what is a Master IEP coach? Go over to masteriepcoach.com. Just drop your name and email. I'll send you all the information. I've got a lot of things happening behind the scenes. You're going to love our summer session, and the bonuses are getting ready to be dropped for all of our early birds. So when you sign up now, you're going to get access to every bonus that there is for this session. Remember, this is for parents, teachers, admins, therapists who want all things IEPs for themselves and they want to help others. All right, everyone, I'll talk to you soon.